everybody, welcome to my homestead and welcome to my channel. My name is Jared. In this video, we're going to talk about the Canadian wildfires because right now this is what Chicago looks like. And we're going to look at other major American cities. You remember a little while ago when we were looking at the skies of New York City, Washington, D.C., Philadelphia, places like that? Well, this event isn't over yet. In fact, this is the worst wildfire season in Canadian history that's going on right now. So we're going to look at some of the details of this, look at a few spreadsheet that I put together that has to do with wildfires. We've looked at it before on the channel, but it's just, it's unbelievable what's going on right now. So before we get into this, here's the update on the Flood the Earth Challenge, where we're sharing the Book of Mormon with as many people as possible. 6,069 copies of the Book of Mormon have been shared so far, with 611 people that have joined the challenge. 53 reports of people meeting with the missionaries, 18 baptisms. So everybody keep up the good work. If you decide to participate in this challenge, which helps encourage other people to do the same, make sure to include #flood in your comment or send me an email, and then make sure to keep the message very short so it's easy for me to update the numbers. Okay, so I don't even know where to start. There's like so many things. Okay, so first let's go through the different cities that look like Chicago. So here's Chicago. It says here, Chicago's air quality remains in the very unhealthy category, with people encouraged to limit their time outside, even healthy people with no respiratory problems. Air quality alerts are in effect for the Chicago area and the Rockford area until midnight Wednesday. Alerts are also in effect for Wisconsin and Indiana. But this is actually a lot more widespread than just that. So we have Chicago. Here's Detroit. Smoke from Canadian wildfires continues to leave haze over Metro Detroit. Indianapolis. The title for this one says Little Red Dot of a Sun. Again, I'm pointing these things out because when you have things like this happen that don't happen very often, in their apocalyptic in nature, or at least they look like they are, I think it's significant. I think a message is being sent. You know, we know that when the second coming happens, the world is going to burn. And there's a lot of people out there that know that, you know. And so this is kind of a crazy thing that's happening right now with all these different major cities and also states, entire states that are experiencing this. So Indianapolis, Indiana, Cleveland. By the way, this is where Kirtland is. It's on the outskirts, essentially. It's like it to the northeast of Cleveland. It seems like it's kind of in the metro area, but this is the general area of Kirtland, Ohio. So Cleveland is the major city there. Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Air quality declines in Pittsburgh as smoke and haze from the Canadian wildfires blanket metro area. Let's see, Minneapolis. Well, I guess it would be the Twin Cities, right? Both of them, but Canadian wildfire, that'd be St. Paul and Minneapolis. Canadian wildfire smoke gives Minnesota City the worst air in the U.S. Now, this is back on the 14th, but from what I can tell, there's still smoke there. St. Louis, Missouri. In this picture here, you can see the St. Louis Arch in the background there. Here's one for the entirety of Wisconsin. Wisconsin faced an unprecedented amount of air quality advisories. So there's kind of a major thing going on. And I already explained what that was. It's the fact that Canada already this year, we're not even done with the year, it's already reached its worst wildfire season in recorded history for Canada. This is ArcGIS, or the U.S. Wildfire Activity Web Map, and it comes up with these icons when there's fires in the United States that you can click on and get more details. You know, so here's one, the Spring Creek incident in Colorado. There's not a whole lot going on in the U.S. All these red dots here, these are, it says satellite thermal hotspots and fire activity. So I don't know what all of these are. I'm sure that some of them are like fields that are burning, like farmers burning their fields, and there's probably other activities going on that would cause these little hotspots. You see a ton down in Mexico. I'm not sure what that's all about, but it seems like that's pretty much always the case. Um, in Africa too, if it'll populate. Yeah, here we go. See, so this really isn't too much out of the ordinary every time that I come here. But when we come back over here to the US and we go up to Canada, you'll notice the key over here, when you have like a red spot with yellow around it, and the bigger that spot is, and the more yellow there is, that's like really big. Okay, so look at all this going on up in Canada. This is crazy. It is just absolutely insane. So the entire country essentially is on fire. Um, and a lot of the smoke is coming down. It's affecting Canada too, of course, but it's coming down into the United States and coming into our major cities. You know, I thought it was already pretty major when it came into New York and Washington D.C. and Philadelphia and just this area in general, the Northeast. But now it's also affecting um, the upper Midwest. You know, now we have Chicago, which is another really major city of the United States. The largest cities in the United States are New York, um, Los Angeles, and I think last I checked, Chicago is number 3, and then after that, Houston. So anyway, 2 of the largest cities in the United States, including the nation's capital, has been affected by this and had these scenes in the skies, in the skylines of these cities. All right, so it's kind of a big deal. You can go to Zoom Earth, and it shows satellite imagery, and you can see the smoke right here. Like, you can tell the difference between the clouds, you know, which are more, they have more form to them, they're wider, and then you see this hazy stuff right here, which would be the smoke coming down from Canada. And unfortunately, well, and I'm pretty sure this right here would mostly be smoke, but it's kind of mixed in with the clouds, or they're kind of overlapped. We can go back in time, but you can see that there's still just like there's a lot of clouds, but you can see that the smoke is pretty much there. It's a very, all up around here, this area, if you can see my mouse, very smoky, and it's been like that for a little while now. Here's probably like the clearest view. So here's St. Louis right here. It's on the east side of the state. Or Kansas City, which is the Independence, Missouri area, or Independence is in the Kansas City metro area. This is where New Jerusalem will be. I don't know. Maybe I wonder if Kansas City is. Let's see, Kansas City, Canadian wildfires. I wonder if. Yeah, they have this, but it's from like 3 weeks ago. Canadian wildfire smoke drifts as far west as Kansas City, so even Kansas City has been affected by this. And you can kind of see it right here, back on the 17th. Right. Let's go back in time just a little bit more. Yeah, you can pretty much still see this, and I guess this only goes as far back as the 15th. So yeah, there's kind of a major thing. Now let's look at some of the numbers here. Well, before we go into the numbers, let's look at a few things. So this is from cbsnews.com. It says Canada is experiencing its most destructive wildfire season on record, as hundreds of blazes burning from coast to coast continue to send tremendous plumes of smoke into the atmosphere. The broad extent of the fires, from the westernmost provinces to the eastern ones, is unusual, particularly so early in the year. And that's not good, you know, because, again, the fire season's not over yet, and it's already the biggest one in Canadian history. So now it's just going to be really big as we move forward in time. Canadian government officials said political leaders, including President Biden and environmental experts, have pointed out the or the causal link between rising temperatures driven by climate change, as well as drought and the extreme wildfire season that Canada is experiencing now. So, again, I'm just going to say it over and over again. I think that it's the Earth preparing itself to become a terrestrial conditioned world, and that there is going to be a big burning. Whether that burning has to do with climate change or global warming, I don't know. Maybe that's how the fire is. Maybe it kind of slowly ramps up. Maybe it's going to get to the point where it just gets really, really hot, and people just, maybe it won't be like a sudden event, or maybe it will. That's something I still don't quite know. I've tried to research it, but I'm not going to read this. Just Detroit woke up to the worst air quality in the United States. This is dated today, so they're number one for worst air quality today. Um, so let's look at the numbers here. You might recognize this. This is a spreadsheet that I put together originally for a second channel that I was trying to do, but it just became too much, and so I brought it over to this channel for videos just like this. And what it is, I've cleaned it up quite a bit. I used to try to like keep track of like all major fires, like what seemed like significant fires, according to acreage burned, death toll, buildings destroyed, stuff like that. But now I've simplified it to simply the worst wildfires, according to whether they're the largest of a certain area, the most destructive, or deadliest. So I'm just looking at the top, the most. Okay, so everything in this that's highlighted in this this darker red color right here, this signifies the largest by acreage for that area. Okay, if it's gray, then that's the most destructive, and if it's black, then it's the deadliest in that area's history. So, and you can see over here, it took me some time, but I went through and I got all my sources. So if you want to confirm any of this, just come to the spreadsheet. The link for it is in the description below. You can come to this spreadsheet. It's under the tab titled Disasters Wildfires, and it's in column L. All right, so let's zoom in. Let's see if I can do 200. No, we better do 150. So this year, and I put the dates here under acres because it's not over yet. But this year, Canada, as a country, has had its worst fire season in recorded history. British Columbia has had its largest single wildfire, the Donnie Creek wildfire, which is interesting because before now, it had its largest wildfire back in 2018, the year that President Nelson became president of the church. It was the Tweedsmuir complex fire, but now that's been bumped down to number 2. So British Columbia has had its largest single wildfire. As far as whether it's going to have its worst wildfire season uh, in general, I don't know that yet, but once I do, I'll update this. Last year, New Mexico had its largest wildfire. In 2021, Russia, as a nation, had its worst wildfire season, with 44 million acres burned. Almost 45, 44.8, so almost 45. So I guess you could say, now I got this 19.2 million for Canada yesterday, and who knows how much this is going to grow to, but it's approaching the halfway point for the if it's going to okay, it's almost half as much as the Russian wildfires were. And for all we know, for all anybody knows, maybe it'll match Russia's wildfires, or maybe it'll surpass it. That's going to be something that we're going to have to keep an eye on. So right now, it's at 19.2. Russia was 44.8. And again, I have to wonder a little bit with everything that's been going on between the West and Russia, and the conflict that we're currently going through. I'm trying to be careful with my words. I wonder if there's other types of warfare that are being conducted other than just conventional warfare. Um, I've talked about other things on the channel, but this might be one of them. What if these wildfires aren't so wild? What if they're man-made? That's kind of a scary thought. But we've talked about, for example, how the U.S. and Russia, they've both worked on projects to deflect meteors to avoid planet killers, right? So the U.S. has, I think it was called the DART program, and they've tested it and deflected a meteor. Russia's done the same thing. And you have to wonder if, well, maybe they can't deflect things toward Earth, to very specific areas. Because we had that really strange happening back in, I think it was 2013, February 2013. Let me find it really quick. You had the Chelyabinsk meteor explosion, which was pretty spectacular to behold. It had the explosive yield of a nuclear bomb, several actually. It was really large, caused some destruction on the ground, injured some people. But this was around the time. This was actually a year before before Russia annexed Crimea. Okay, so here, February 15th of 2013, and then it was a year later that Crimea was annexed. And then, so remember that date, the 15th of February. This year, you know what happened on the 15th of February of 2023? I'll tell you as soon as I find it. Here we go. On the 15th of February, a meteor explodes over Texas, exactly 10 years after the Chelyabinsk Russian meteor. So I don't know. I can't prove it, but I just think it's kind of odd. A lot of weird things happening with meteors over powerful countries, because we've had this one in Texas. There was one just a couple days earlier over France and southern England. And then we had a very rare daytime meteor explode over Israel on the Sabbath over northern Israel, which is the Megiddo area, on the 15th of April. So is there something going on? I don't know. I don't know. Who the heck knows? I'm just pointing it out. And then we have this going on with wildfires, where first it follows the same pattern. First, Russia gets hit, and then sometime later, the West gets hit. In this case, Canada, which is affecting the United States because of the air quality. So I don't know. Oh yeah, and then also in 2020, that's when California had its worst wildfire season. 4.3 million acres. I need to find what the worst fire season was for the United States. I want to say it was 2020, but I'm not sure. There's a lot. This is by no means complete, what I have here. I'm going to have to work more on this, see if I can find more. But anyway, now if we zoom out, let's go to 90%. You can see that a lot's been happening in recent times as far as wildfires go. It's almost like every single year somebody has their worst wildfire season or largest wildfire in state or province or country history. I need to work more on this, but I mean, look at this. From 2018, when President Nelson became prophet, until now, every single year there's at least one entry on my spreadsheet, except for 2019, which there may have been something then, but again, I'll just have to keep working at this to see what else I can find. But let me just go over a quick list of what we have here. We have, starting in 2004, Alaska, Texas, Utah, Idaho, Arizona, Oregon, Nevada, British Columbia, Washington State, Colorado, California, Russia, New Mexico, British Columbia again, and now the entirety of Canada. All within less than 20 years, right? If we're starting at 2004, right now it's 2023. Within 20 years, all these places have had the largest either wildfire seasons or individual wildfires, or most destructive or most deadly. So just if you're just looking at fires, things are pretty bad right now. Things are pretty bad. So that's the update. Just another sign of the times. I think it's really significant that Canada, because like I don't know how many other countries really have the potential to have as big of wildfires as Russia and Canada. I suppose the United States. I'm not sure about China. China is a really large country land-wise, but they're much further. Well, I don't know. They're basically at the same latitude as the United States. I don't know much about China and wildfires in China. We've covered a lot of wildfires that have happened in Europe, but again, because the countries are smaller, it's not likely, for example, that France would have larger wildfires than Russia. Although we could look at Europe as a whole, and so I might need to look into that. But anyway, the fact that such a large area is being impacted. First, we had this large area over here, Russia, and now this large area over here, and then before that, this large area over here, the Western United States. They've all been hit with lots of wildfires, and this one is just going, what looks like it's going berserk. So, all right, well, that's going to be it for this one. If you haven't already, please make sure to subscribe, like this video if you liked it, leave your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below, and also make sure to share it, and I'll talk to you guys later.